do for you?
Okay, so this is my pitch.
You want to give me money? Okay,
that's about it. If I could get, that's what. Yeah, exactly.
That works.
That works. So I want to find a way to get more publicity for what we're doing, and it's
for
based for the theater, and it's sort of based on philosophy along the lines of fishing, right? Okay. Like all these years, I made chainmail. And chainmail's kind of like my fish. Okay. And for a while, I used to sell fish to people. And then I started to teach people how to fish. And it turns out that it was kind of neat being a teacher, and I do that online, and I enjoy that. And so I tend to look at things in the terms of fish. There's a really neat thing called Fish a Tap Essay on the internet.
Fish a Tap?
Essay. I can give you the link for it if you want. And it's a little thing about understanding stock and flow in business. Where we are, there's a lot of trouble because we have tons of stock and there's not a lot of flow. It's definitely not what it was. In fact, I'm pretty sure Manitoulин's going to be a peninsula fairly soon, one way or the other, the way I hear it. So the thing is, we need a reason to get people here. I think the theater is a fantastic reason. I think it's one of the most important natural resources we have here. We have 2 world-class directors. They win awards up the wazoo. It's very sad that they're maybe a tad underappreciated. But that's not their fault. It's the conditions we live under. There's just not enough for everybody. It's kind of like dog eat dog, and it makes for a very grumpy attitude. So my idea is we need more flow here. This is my assessment of the situation. We need more flow, so we need a reason for people to come here. So we got to create reasons. Now, I have, some crazy reasons in the back of my head. Like, I think if we had a really big inflatable screen on the East Bluff and a projector in the pavilion, we could have the world's first sail-in theater. Can you imagine, how popular would that be, right? Walter says that he thinks it'd be really cool if there's zip lines going across the bluff, and I said, why not turn the other part of it into a water park? Have these big slides on it or something like that. But the point is, there has to be something. There has to be something, and overall, our island needs as many somethings as possible. The more the communities can work together to support the somethings, the better. But as far as I know, I can work at home, so I'm trying to help my community, and I love my community. I wouldn't have stayed here my whole life if I didn't love it. So my idea is to create as much publicity as possible. Now, I started it this morning with a project that I have that's called Anti-landmine.com. Okay. And it's a very blatant advertising campaign to get ninja office toys on people's minds. And if you want, I can give you a demonstration of what you get in an anti-landmine. I was using these bottles, which are my recycled bottles. I can't drink the water out of my apartment because of the old pipe, so I have a lot of these, and I was feeling bad about that, so I wanted to find a way to recycle them. I also wanted something to sell at the markets that was waterproof, so I thought a long time about how to do something like this. So what you get is you got 5 craft sticks, and each one of them has anti-landmine.com, which is their URL written on them, and you also get this little packet of instructions here. I'll leave this for you to go through later on. It basically shows you how to make them, and on the other side there's a little advertisement for stuff that's going on in Gore Bay. So this is my news. It's basically like my little weekly, one-off newspaper. Yeah. And you get edition number 1. Everything, all the other ones I made were copies. Yeah. So this is the only full-color edition of this. I'm never going to do another one. Although you can order it on the internet as a PDF if you want. Oh, okay. But look, that's for you, Tom. It's signed number 1, first edition.
Jeez.
Okay. And what you do is to make an anti-landmine. This, realistically, to me, replicates what it's like to have a battlefield ordnance. Okay. Because sometimes one of these popsicle sticks will crack in your hand. Sometimes you put it together and you won't put enough tension on it, and when you go to throw it at somebody, it doesn't go off. And that's a dud. You'd be dead on the battlefield. And sometimes they go off in your hands, and that's also, I've talked to people who are veterans, and they say to me, yeah, those weapons jammed. That's why the AK-47 was the most ubiquitous firearm in history, right? Yeah. So, and the idea is you put tension on it, and when you throw it, it explodes. Okay. You go to the website, and it comes up with my YouTube video, and what it says on it is antilandmine.com.
Okay.
Oops. Oh yeah, good.
Had this been an actual landmine, you would be lucky to be alive right now. Or you'd be lucky to be dead right now. I'd make it very harsh. And then I go on to list all of the awful things that happen to people that are, that get caught in landmine fire. Like, you get decompressive shock that pulls out your lungs. You end up with shrapnel wounds. You end up with tinnitus in your ears and all these really awful conditions. Landmines are a really awful thing, the consequence of war. It's just, it's absolutely horrid. But the idea is, I want people to be putting them around their office spaces in order to challenge the system. The trick is, if you put them like on the top of a refrigerator door and you open the door, they fall. Now, I've invented toys before that have been banned from office spaces, like my Happy Fun Ball cages out of chainmail. I had those banned from 2 places in Sudbury because they were too much fun. But this one is one to stick it back to the man, because you put one of these together and you have too much fun in the office throwing them around like office ninjas. And your boss has a problem, he pulls you into the office, you look them right in the eye and say, "Sir, is there something wrong with anti-landmines? Are you telling me that you're for landmines? Is that what this organization stands for?" Well, of course not. It's a fun way to get attention and draw marketing attention to the town.
Okay.
Right now I'm working on my digital publishing business. I'm going to try and have a new book every week for the summer. I'm already planning out the next one that I'm going to bring out next Friday at the market. The thing is, you got to understand, books are a little bit different than they once were. This is something I learned just this week from a friend of mine. There's this
Like this would come out every
Yeah, I'm gonna try and come out with a new product to advertise every week. This week it was I'm not gonna even start for spoilers for next for the next one, but I'm working on the next project. There's this dude who's become a very famous author because he wrote an entire novel in 2.5 minutes at a Pearl Jam concert on his BlackBerry.
Jeez.
And he said the biggest thing that he had to get over was the embarrassment that it was such a quick, short story. But apparently it's a very wonderful, poignant, amazing story. The way that we express ourselves changed. In this, there's a list of things to do with water bottles, like ways to recycle water bottles.
Yeah.
There's the neatest guy on the internet that I found, and he sits and he plays the water bottle, and he's going...
Okay.
He can get notes out of it, and he kind of laps the side of it to do a beat. And he's like, "Dude, this isn't a water bottle. This is a means of outward expression." That's, our world today is, a means of outward expression. Anyhow, there's a part in the tuna play where they say, and they're talking about doing the play and I think they're combining South Pacific with My Fair Lady, and they're going, "Oh, something to put us on a map. They'll find us. Oh, they'll find us. They'll find us for sure." Well, this is the sort of thing that I'm trying to create. And in truth, I wanted to bounce a couple ideas off of your head, because I'd like to do something with the paper, and I don't know exactly how to do it. I can tell you, one idea I had, completely, unrelated thing, but sort of related. Back in June, Ashley and I were up watching the sunset on the bluff, and we saw a UFO. It's not like... flying saucer or flying chalupa or tortilla or anything. There was a light that moved oddly in the sky. Compared to the stars, it wasn't a normal satellite, it wasn't whatever, so it's an unidentified flying object, and we both think that sort of things are cool. I went home and posted it on Facebook, and other people had seen it.
Oh, okay.
So one of the things that I thought of doing was putting a letter to the newspaper. I'm trying to figure out a way to add humor, because this way I see the world takes itself way too seriously. I'm trying to figure out a way that we can add humor to it is a bit of an attraction. So I was going to post a letter that said, did anyone else see this, in the North Channel area? We're curious if we can figure out, to pinpoint where it might have been.
Yeah.
P.S. This is absolutely not an ad for Greater Tuna, which happens to contain a UFO,
okay. Yeah.
And then it has the URL for the blog that I'm writing about it.
Okay.
Then the next week, one of the characters from the play, like R.R. Snavely, could write in and say, "I saw a flying tortilla. I really did. And then next week, Vera could write in and say, "No, R.R. was drinking," or whatever. And it's just it's a little bit of humor. And then in my mind, for the last week, somehow we convinced them to change the logo on the front of the paper to say Tuna Times or something like that. It's a really... Okay, I'm getting far-fetched,
No,
right?
that's okay.
But I like to tell stories, but I don't know how to I don't know what the best way to interact. I almost thought... Remember how I used to write, advice columns and computer stuff? Mm-hmm. Computers are driving me out of my gourd these days. I want to go on to do other things. And I really like from my chainmail, from teaching, from all these things, I learned that I really like comedy. I really like writing, so I want to do some comedy writing. And so I didn't know if we could think about, like, would it be possible to do like a column weekly or bi-weekly that was like a humorous piece, but probably speculative fiction based. It's like, this is something that's like totally crazy and it's just meant to be crazy. I thought about in the old days about how much of an attraction it was to read letters in the paper from people that were the local attractions.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that it would be neat to sort of be like that, but I don't know what I would write in terms of crazy letters that would get published, but maybe in terms of something that was more sanctioned or whatever. And I know I talked to Mike, and he likes the idea of speculative fiction and something like that. So that was another idea I had. Or maybe you got a better idea of something I could be putting my talents to or whatever.
Yeah.
But something that would create a big thing. Oh, and the other side of the anti-landmine, I have to go home and set it up. Maybe tomorrow. I'm tired right now. I've been running on nothing but adrenaline. I was up to 4:30 last night making all these. I made 64 original ones for the market.
Oh, my God.
The other part of it is I'm doing a crowdsourcing project for it.
Okay.
Crowdsourcing is this new thing where people can donate to a project. And for right now, I'm creating something that I call the Citizens Initiative to make Gorbet a more interesting place. I got a few people that are willing to work as a little makeshift community, and we're asking for donations, and if we can get enough, the first thing I'm going to do is book the hall, hopefully for the end of August. I'm going to get a local band to play, if I can get enough to pay them. I'm going to get a light show if I get enough, and it's basically people can donate to it. But the more publicity we can get for it, the better. Like, it's really a thing about people finding out about it. Another idea I had is that I tend to be a pretty good crackpot in talking about things. I have a grand unification theory of physics that I've been working on. A friend of mine once challenged me. She said she would laugh so hard if I cracked grand unification of physics. Do you know that the grand unification of physics comes with $1 million prize? The Nobel Peace Prize is worth $1 million, and the explanation of can you prove that magic is real from the Amazing Randy Foundation is $1 million prize. So I figured that I would write a book that in as few pages as possible provided the grand unification theory of all physics, explaining our entire cosmos, and qualify for those prizes, and also probably like Stephen Leacock for humor.
Yeah.
My goal is to shoot for the farthest point possible, and if I get somewhere in between, at least I've made progress.
Sure.
But I do have, like, it should be less than 30 pages grand unification theory and stuff like that.
Sure.
If you wanted to, I could come in once a week and you could conduct a short interview about whatever I'm working on or something like that, if you thought that would be interesting. I figure after all these years, we've had this sort of like loyal relationship. I've always come to you with the stories that I wanted to drop into the media. And I read something that sort of inspired me on the internet. It said, one well-written press release can change the world. But
Probably.
I don't know how to do a super good press release, and I don't know. I'm still learning about the channels and where to do stuff, and I do a lot of like online stuff. Social media is really the thing that I'm working on. I have a bet right now with my Instagram fans. Can I go from 500 fans to 1 million fans before the end of the month?
Okay.
I'm going to make myself as popular as possible. I mean, you would think cracking grand unification, like no scientist has ever done this before. Stephen Hawking's, like all these great minds. I've never heard. The problem solved. So it's like, I figured that's pretty good. And it links back to, the recorder broke the story about the Shitch. Not many people read that, but you remember the backdoor theory? It's part of the backdoor theory. So it's like, it's kind of that lineage, so I think you guys deserve that story. So if you ever wanted to like interview me and ask me about the backdoor theory and stuff like that, I don't know, like, I have... For July, sort of have my books planned out, but I don't know which one I'm going to sit down and do next. If I feel really inspired, I might sit down and just do the grand unification one, and that might pop up. But I also have this other one called Free Advice, Bad Advice, Good Advice. And if I have a really busy week, I just might do that at the last minute.
Okay.
So we'll have to see what happens.
Okay.
Also, I'm doing live stand-up at the Rainbow Ridge Golf Course Friday. Next Friday, to sort of, I'm trying to take the evangelical message about humor in the theater in Gorbet and sort of bring it. So I think I'll probably do the Judge Buckner eulogy.
Oh, okay.
'Cause that seems to be about,
Oh,
besides
that's
the
good,
dog,
yeah.
but people like the Judge Buckner eulogy, so maybe
yeah.
I'll do that as an example or whatever. And for the geeks in that too, I have the whole explanation of how I memorized that, and I used the landmarks on the street of Gorbet because to make your memory better, if you use spatial references, that's how it works for an actor. So I used the reference of walking down the main street of Gorbet. So I have a video. Here's walking down the main street. Here's doing this. The thing is, I only photographed the east side of the main street. I'm trying to incite some sort of, some cross street. So I don't know. I'm coming over and talking to the west side of the street now. So it's like I'm in the enemy's camp. So anyways, there you go.
Holy.
There's your
Okay.
story. So you can do whatever you want with that.
Oh my.